Hello and welcome to another episode of the WeWFM podcast. I'm your host, Doug Casterton, and today I am joined by one of the most influential voices in customer experience and contact centers, Brad Cleveland. As the founding partner and former CEO of the ICMI, Brad spent over 3 decades helping organizations transform their customer service operations across 60 different countries. He's the author of 2 groundbreaking books, including Leading the Customer Experience and Contact Center on Fast Forward. Brad's expertise has been sought by industry giants like Apple, American Express, and USAA, and his insights have been featured in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, and major television networks. So we're extremely fortunate to have such an esteemed expert join us on the WeWFM show today. I'm super excited. I hope you are too. Welcome to the WeWFM podcast, Brad Cleveland. I've long wanted to get you on this podcast. I'm super happy to have you here. Many of the audience are going to know you as one of the founding partners of ICMI, as well as the many book publishments that you've had as well. And I think probably what the Contact Center Manager on Fast Forward is now in its 4th edition, probably one of the most widely read books out there. Congratulations for that. For those that don't know you, how would you describe yourself to someone new in the industry?
First of all, Doug, thank you so much for the invite. Honored to have this conversation with you. I've been following your work for some years now. I just love the work you're doing. So thank you. I've been working in this space for 4 decades now in the customer experience space and specifically a lot of contact centers. You mentioned ICMI as founding partner of ICMI. That opened doors to work with organizations across probably all the verticals and in over 60 countries. Today, I'm focused on consulting and education. Clients have ranged from small startups to national governments and corporate clients that span countries. And I'll tell you, Doug, I have never seen a more exciting time in the contact center space and in workforce management specifically. So it's an honor to be part of it. It really is a community. I learn every day things that it just didn't occur to me. And I'm picking up from all the great work going on out there. So it's just such a privilege to be a part of this community.
I think that's one of the things that I love about not just working in contact centers, because there's also like this huge big community that's out there. Lots of people that are out there to help share best practice or just help with those questions that you might have. And I find the same with workforce management, which is unusual because a lot of us are a little introvert. We like our numbers in our data, not always the greatest communicators. But there's this huge passion for really sharing best practice and uniting. And so I share that. That's one of the things that continues driving me on in terms of evangelizing workforce management. So you've been around 30 years. You've pretty much seen it all. And I think you definitely have the right to say if this is one of the most exciting times. How have you seen the workforce management evolve over, let's say, the last few years and look, especially when it comes to like the new digital channels and AI driven technologies, which is on the tip of everyone's lips.
Yeah, that's a great question. And let me answer it this way. So the definition of contact center management that we've used for years, I always encourage managers to memorize it, especially if you're in workforce management, but if you're in quality or supervisor or data analysis somewhere, whatever. So the contact center management, we've always defined as the art of having the right number of properly skilled people and supporting resources in place at the right times to handle an accurately forecasted workload at service level and with quality. That's what we do. When we get that right, everything works for us. I've thought about that definition, like how should it change? And it really hasn't in terms of right number of people and the technology to support them in the right place at the right times, doing the right things. It sounds like a definition for workforce management itself. The underlying principles are not changing. With the introduction of new channels and AI-driven technologies, there's of course more variables, more to get right. There's more at stake for our organizations and customers. Yeah, and you mentioned AI. That's been a game changer, but really not in ways that many have predicted. And rather than replacing workforce management, we see it amplifying the importance of workforce management. We're using AI to spot patterns that we couldn't before and predict customer behavior more accurately. So it's a great resource for us. And happily, those underlying principles will continue to work for us. We get those right.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting because, like with everybody, the workforce management community asking, what's it going to mean to me with AI coming in and such like that? And I'm saying a similar thing, which the transition from spreadsheets to a workforce management system, it didn't replace anybody. But what it did was enhance their output and also liberated them from some of the more manual stuff so that they
Yeah.
really be champions of communication or and one of the big value streams in workforce management is how it sticks together the organization from marketing to operations. And
Yeah.
sometimes you don't have enough time to do these multiple scenarios. I just think the AI, and the same for the new digital channels, is that it doesn't really change much. It just means that exactly what you put out, it amplifies what they do. It's a really good point.
I love your example, Doug, of moving from a spreadsheet to a workforce management system. I'll have to borrow that one with you. That's a really great illustration of what we're going through now.
Yeah. But what about workforce management strategic value? I touched a little bit on that just there. Where do you see that changing in the organizations that you're working with, and how are they using that to pursue a differentiation in CX?
We're becoming more strategic. We've evolved from being a support function to becoming a strategic differentiator.
Mm.
It's like moving from being a timekeeper to the architect of customer experience moments. And an organization is truly committed to customer experience excellence. Workforce management's sitting at the leadership table now. We're helping shape decisions about everything from tech investments to the customer journey design. We're not just asking how many people or bots do we need, but how do we create those moments of customer interaction that really matter? The most successful organizations that I've seen have recognized that great experience doesn't just happen by accident. We've got to be intentional about it. We've got to orchestrate what's going on. That's where today's workforce management plays such a crucial role. We're really more strategic than ever.
One of the biggest frustrations that we do have in workforce management circles is the fact that we're not always engaged, or sometimes in some organizations just seen as that number crunchers, or, oh, you're the person that did the shifts, right? How do workforce management professionals really start to evolve their thinking or their presence so that they can obtain that seat at the table? What's the sort of things that they need to be doing in your mind?
It's a great question, and we've got to be intentional about it. We've got to get to know the others in our organization. Spend some time sitting next to agents and hearing from them. Spend some time really explaining the why behind the schedules that we're producing and the forecast that we're putting in place and where we might be wrong, and really inspiring others. Hey, we need your help. We need your eyes and ears to help give us visibility so that we can ultimately, as a team, get the right resources in place at the right time. That just works well for everybody. So really, I always smile when I say this, but take folks out to lunch, get to know them on a more one-on-one level. And then it's much more comfortable when you're around that table and explaining the numbers.
Yeah, and I like how you touch upon the why. I think too many workforce management teams tend to hide a little bit behind their numbers, and they don't necessarily explain how did you get to that conclusion. Because to galvanize trust with an operational
Right.
leader, they need to understand how you got to that and why you're saying what you're saying. Really good point. Workforce management for me has 3 points on a triangle. It's there to ensure that an operation has great cost efficiency. It's there to ensure that shifts and practices are followed, are employee engagement friendly. And it's there to ensure the business has the right number of people to ensure it's delivering the desired customer experience that it wants to deliver. How do, but I think there's more to this on the customer experience side than just delivering a service level. You've seen both sides of things. How do you see translating CX goals into staffing requirements?
Yeah. The 3 points you just mentioned are great and certainly a central part of this. I always encourage start with your customer access strategy. Don't even think about workforce management before you really nail down your strategy. What's your customer access strategy? And if that's a new term for some, by the way, Doug, we've got a resource on my website that's free that
The new
just goes
term.
through the
Yeah.
elements of customer access strategy. But everyone's got one, whether they've formalized it or not. Who are your customers? What are the reasons they need to interact with you? what channels make the most sense by customer, by reason behind those interactions, in service level and hours of operation, so forth. 10 components, they won't be surprised to anybody. But that then becomes the strategic blueprint. All right, that's the guide that we need. Then we can go into the workforce management planning process, establish our service level objectives, forecast the work, calculate staff, assemble schedules, that sort of thing. So I'd start with that blueprint, that strategy, and then roll out the steps and think of them needing continual updates. You get better and better at it. My encouragement is to get the steps in place and then establish that cultural understanding. To your point, the why are we taking these steps and how do we get from point A to where we are now with these schedules?
Yeah, that's spot on. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but not that skill-based routing is anything new to anybody. I think with the advent of AI-driven sentiment analysis, we can now get to the bottom of why the customers contact us, their intent more than ever before. And if you start to incorporate things like intelligent routing, I can see a time where you can start to divide your staffing down to much more granular levels of the customer journey. I don't know if you've ever had a thought on that, but that's where I see some areas of development in workforce management on the CX side of things, really starting to collaborate with CX experts and then dividing the staffing into places where it makes sense to deliver that extra customer experience, putting the right agent with the right skill.
Skills-based routing's been around since the early 90s, but we've got the ability to be granular in a way that we never could before. These tools are very powerful. My encouragement is to use them like ingredients in a recipe. Too much of any one ingredient dominate, and we want to keep things simple enough that we can manage it. So personalize and yes, route these contacts specifically and use these variables in a way that delivers great customer experience. If it gets too complicated, like beyond our ability to manage and schedule and staff for what we're trying to do, back off a little bit. Go back to the more of a pooled approach. Use the database and CRM system to help personalize, to keep things as pooled as possible. That's a more of an art than an exact science, isn't it?
Right.
We've got these powerful tools and use them to the extent we can manage them to create great experiences.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. We've, in the context of the industry, been around this evolution of 5, maybe 10 years ago. Everybody was saying, provide all of the channels that are where the customer is. Whereas now we're evolving that thinking to be more simplified, which is provide the channels that are best for your customers to use and really just nail them. When you start to overcomplicate things, you can end up doing more harm than good, right? Because you end up not being great at anything. But we're having lots of channels, but none of them actually being very good. Same principles with workforce management. Yeah, really good advice. So when it comes to the evolving AI era that we're now in, how do you see workforce management organization positioning? Do you see any difference?
Yeah, definitely we're becoming more strategic. Think of AI as this powerful new instrument in an orchestra. It doesn't eliminate the need for the conductor. It makes the conductor's role even more crucial. So I see workforce management leaders of the future having a more multidiscipline mindset. We've always needed it, but wow, do we ever now? Adept at understanding human and technology requirements in a service operation, really differentiating between what humans do best and what technology does best so that we're shaping the right combination, getting very comfortable in discussing machine learning algorithms and how AI is learning and developing, along with human psychology. And very importantly, not only determining requirements, but making a good case for those requirements. We can explain trade offs, we can explain the why behind how we got here, really becoming more strategic than ever. That business partner that helps our leadership team and our colleagues get things right. When we do that, we become the go-to resource. Things are changing. We need your help with this and talk about career development and really making a positive difference.
That's really great advice. And I would just add to that to say that one of the things that I found really powerful in strategic conversations is identifying with your stakeholders that what you're providing as a forecast is only one possible version of the truth. I think one of the things that AI allows you to have more time to do is multiple scenarios. And I think that when we as a community, as a workforce management profession, start to produce these multiple scenarios and galvanize them within organizations, you can start to get better decisions.
That is great advice. We know that no forecast is going to be dead on every now and then. You hit it pretty close, but we know it's not going to be exact the vast majority of the time. So building those scenarios, we've always known that's a great idea, but you're exactly right. That's a great way to harness these tools and go in with here are the possibilities and what might drive this or that outcome.
And it can be used in so many different scenarios. It might be, I'm thinking about adding this new technology to the website. Maybe we're adding a chatbot, for example. Could you give me an estimate of what you believe that means to cost? And these are the sort of questions that workforce management can answer, or at least give a view within a range of confidence that I think are just purely underutilized when it comes to that sort of, that seat at the decision table.
Yeah, I agree. And you could really can get AI's help with any aspect of your customer access strategy. Like we add this new component, this new channel, this new service. Help me think through everything, service levels, hours of operation, skill sets that we need, how any of those things might need to change. And then we go on with this comprehensive approach that really ensures that we're going to be successful as we roll things out.
Yeah. And of course, so we talked about AI, we talked about some of the changes that are hitting workforce management. What would you say with that in mind? Where do you see the long-term investment strategy for professionals in terms of their skill sets? What do they need to be focusing on?
I always think of a T-shaped skill set. The vertical bar represents deep experience in core workforce management principles, forecasting, scheduling, real-time management, and so forth. Those fundamentals are not going to go away. They're becoming more important than ever. So that's the part of it. And then the horizontal bar represents broader knowledge across the organization. So think of the customer journey across departments and interactions, knowing enough about the disciplines represented by different departments, finance, HR, IT, and so forth, and understanding how the contact center can help the broader organization use customer insight from the contact center we're capturing every day. Today and tomorrow's workforce management professional, especially tomorrow's, need to understand and help bring these organization wide pieces together. And by the way, it's very exciting when we do that because we begin to get called into and really invited into other parts of the organization that say, hey, we're not a contact center, but you've really got a handle on forecasting and resource management. Can you help us over in this area, the warehouse or this queue in HR that we've got, or the back office processing that maybe wasn't seen as a part of the contact center directly. And we started getting invited into helping the entire organization run better.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And there's so much untouched organizations or operations out there outside of the contact center that really could do with a hand when it comes to the sort of discipline that workforce management provides. What would you be your reference in terms of, or your quick reference resources? And feel free to plug some of your own. You've got many good resources, Brad, as well.
We've tried to provide some free frameworks and free low cost resources that are on our website. The customer access strategy, those 10 components, think through that. I never gave that as much thought early in my career, but you get that blueprint right, everything else follows. So I'd spend time developing your own version of a customer access strategy. There's a list of 10 customer expectations there that can be helpful, just thinking through customers expect in today's environment. There's a Q calculator there, which is based on good old Erlang C. There's certainly more advanced tools, but the ability to explain resource trade-offs is helpful. You mentioned the book, Contact Center Management Fast Forward. Thank you for that. Our intent was to provide a step-by-step guide on these principles. And then there's just so many great resources from organizations that have been out there and committed to this space. ICMI is a great resource. Our friends at SWPP have some great resources. All the local groups that are springing up that provide camaraderie and support. your work, Doug. I've followed your work. Anyone should follow your work. And there are those of us in this space love it and want to help. We want to share and just say, as you find those resources, follow them, engage with them. I think I can speak for about anyone in this space. We love this work and we love that camaraderie. We want to share as we can. And we're always learning. Not hard to find others who really enjoy this space.
The truth is the passion and togetherness that I've experienced in my career, especially when it comes to contact centers, just something special. And it's hard to explain that for somebody outside of the industry, but there really is that togetherness across the industry, and it breaks verticals, it breaks industries, and it breaks regional lines. Us talking today, for example, halfway across the world. Yeah. Okay, so I'll put you on a little bit on the spot, but you've had a pretty good knack at predicting the future. I think 2030 now probably is a long way off in today's world, given how fast it's moving. But if, as you look, say, at 2030 and beyond, what's your biggest advice for contact centers wanting to future proof their workforce management strategy?
It's a fun question. Let me give that a shot. I would encourage any professional in this space to think of workforce management as a living, breathing ecosystem rather than a set of processes. We think processes, tools, engaging with our teams and schedules and that sort of thing. Think of this whole thing as living, breathing ecosystem. Invest in tools that can flex and grow with you and build teams that are comfortable with change and have that mindset. Things are changing so fast. It sounds like a cliche, but they are. How do we make iterative improvements to what we're doing a little better every day? So just going in with that mindset, it helps. If I'm on your team, I'm thinking, I want to create something that's going to grow with us, something we can change and improve over time, not just some fixed process that's going to live there forever and supposedly work for us in the future, because it won't very well. And never lose sight. Oh, let me throw one more in. Never lose sight of the human element. As technology advances, our ability to understand and support human needs, both customers and employees, becomes even more crucial. I really believe that's going to be the secret sauce to effective workforce management, is to get out from behind those tools and calculations and really understand and help others around us understand that human connection, because ultimately we're serving customers. We're out there making a difference in their lives, and that's a high calling.
Yeah, and I love that last one. I'm glad you slipped it in because it's probably the biggest advice I've had early on in my career, and it's the piece of advice that I give to every new team that I go into is that we deal with numbers and data, but really what we're dealing with is humans. When you start to understand and apply that and then really entwine it in terms of the practices that you produce, whether that's the type of shifts that you're producing or your type of real-time management that you're deploying, planning for a human at the end of it, is this thing that makes the difference between good workforce planning and great workforce planning in my mind. So yeah, something very close to me. Thank you so much. That was incredibly insightful and really happy to have you on the podcast. Wishing you a great day. And for all those listening out there, I'll leave some of the links for Brad's content in the show notes. Thank you very much, Brad.
Thank you, Doug. I really appreciate it.